was one of those British officers. I take a little time to explain what happened to me and my friends, because our experience was fairly typical. At the age of 23, I was sent on an Arabic language course, a colloquial Arabic language course, and 10 weeks later, I found myself in Oman as an officer in the Oman Army, in the Northern Frontier Regiment. Qaboos had been in power for about 3 years by then. And yet I found myself in a country which really seemed not to have changed in the previous 300 years, maybe even 500, 600 years. It was like taking a stroll in the Old Testament. That is a sort of landscape, that's a sort of village that people lived on. Is that not straight from your little Bible that you had as children, those coloured pictures you had? The only infrastructure in the country at all, apart from some roads, about a dozen miles of hard-top roads by the time I got there. The only other infrastructure were these magnificent water distribution channels. That's on the surface there. But these tunnels of water took water from the mountains to the villages in the north, crossing 10, 20, 30 miles, much of it underground, under the desert. They were dug out, chiseled out under the ground. And they were feats of civil engineering, the like of which I've never seen before. And they were constructed by the Persians between 1,000 and 2,500 years before. That is a frankincense tree. Frankincense trees grew in profusion in the hills where we operated. And this was where the wise man who gave Christ his frankincense, this is where he got it from. This is where the ancient Egyptians who used frankincense in their rites got their frankincense from. As I say, Oman has a very rich, varied, international, ancient history. And it was strange, it was really strange, lying behind a machine gun on tracks which you knew had been used for, 3,000 years to ship frankincense from the mountains down to Sumharan on the coast and then sailed off to the rest of the world. You'll understand when I say I felt like an intruder in history. And when we were shelled or mortared on our positions, if you were near a frankincense tree, and we very often were, they would get flayed, and you could touch them and smell them if you're close enough. The whiff of the frankincense after a good shelling. I associate the two now. Whenever I smell frankincense, I think, survived the latest shelling, very nice. So, yeah. And we did have some punch-ups. It was a counter-guerrilla war, of course. It was a low-intensity insurgency, but there were moments when you really felt you're in a high-intensity battle. Probably my most intense battle was one day I'd been asked to move by daylight across a ridge by my company commander, and we came under enemy fire, automatic fire. We hit the deck, and I found myself lying next to an SAS soldier, an SAS trooper, who had a GPMG, a general purpose machine gun. So I lay down beside him, and I loaded his gun for him, started giving him fire control orders, and my radio started calling up the artillery, calling up the mortars and the guns, and the firefight started. I gave him a couple of directions: shoot there, go left a bit, go left a bit, go right a bit, and suddenly, bang! Poof, he slumped on his machine gun dead. At least we couldn't be sure he was dead, but he was certainly unconscious, lying on my right-hand side. 4 brave men came to my aid over the little ridge, led by one of my corporals, my Arab corporals, and an SAS trooper. The Arab corporal and I tried to grab this guy, and then he went down, bang, and he was pretty dead to me when he went down. One of my soldiers then went down with a hole in the arm, and then the SAS trooper was hit in the leg. And so in the first 3 minutes of this contact, I was one of 2 out of 6 who hadn't been shot or killed, been wounded or killed. And it took us another 6 hours to extract ourselves from that. And my company commander brought in the rest of the company, and we had aircraft and artillery and guns to extract ourselves out. But it took us 6 hours to get out. I think my worst moment was a dark night, a long way from home, one of those donkey patrols. You never ever used an old sanger. There were lots of sangers over the Jebel, as you can imagine. By now, 8 years of war. But there was always a risk that the other side would booby trap. We knew the other side booby trapped the sangers. So you built a new one if you were going to rest for a while. Well, one of my soldiers this night was too tired and too lazy to build himself a sanger, and so he stepped into an old one and boom, up he went on a mine. And I stood next to him. I mean, the sound of him crying for his mother in Arabic and the sound of his lifeblood squirting away was something which will remain with me all my days. I was as scared as hell because I had been in Northern Ireland, and of course the IRA were into secondary events, into secondary incidents. Were these boys into secondary incidents? You fix up one contact and know that everybody else is going to come in and try and sort it out and rescue, and then you have the second one to clear them as well. Were the enemy here up to that? I had no idea, but that's what I would do if I were trying to kill British officers. But I couldn't stand there, so I stepped in, holding on to my private parts very tightly, and got him out, and we patched him up. I've subsequently discovered that the Sanger next door did indeed have 2 mines in it. They were found some 2 years later. So either, perhaps there wasn't a 2 in mine, but either I missed it, or I stepped in it, it didn't go off. That's the way life is. Mars rolled his dice in my favour that night. It didn't for the soldier. He died on the way to hospital. £50. If you want to carry some kit, there you are. That's what they carry. That's your short-term transport. That's your motorbike and your minis, your limousine, your lorries. There's your lorry. The good old camel, the ship of the desert. It carries things. You can eat it. You can milk it. You can lie down beside it and keep warm. It gives you shade, warmth in winter and shade in summer. And there's a closer view. I love this. The camel's smile is a wonderful thing. The Omani soldiers were very, as you would expect in this oral culture, lots of folklore, lots of tales being passed on. I loved listening to them telling me their stories. What I like, the explanation for this supercilious smile that the camel has. Allah has 100 names. Allah, the bountiful, the beautiful, the merciful, the compassionate, the graceful, the wonderful, the generous. Allah has 100 names. But no man can ever know more than 99 of Allah's names. Only the camel knows the 100th. There were other stories too which always amused. The devil, Satan, it's an Arabic word, shaitan. The devil, the great Satan. It's not a mistake that the Ayatollah is always talking about the great Satan. It's an Arabic word. Satan features a lot in Arabic folklore. And the story my soldiers told me, I don't know whether it's true or not, is that if you wash your face every morning for 7 dawns, for 7 consecutive dawns in your own urine, one of 2 things will happen to you. Either Satan will appear to you and give you a woman for you to use for your pleasure, or Satan himself will appear to you and use you for his pleasure.